Quality food is an extremely important resource for whitetails this time of year. Unfortunately, a lot of hunters maybe have already punched their tags or are out of the woods now, and they don't realize that food is short across much of the whitetails range. We all know that deer need to eat year-round, but it's critically important right now because bucks are after the main part of the rut throughout much of the whitetails range, and a lot of does are pregnant by now. Now those fetuses are extremely small, not taking a big nutritional resource, but bucks lose about 30% of their body weight on average during the rut. 30%, that takes a 200-pound deer down to a 140-pound deer, going into the coldest time of year when they need the most resources to survive. So being able to recover after the rut is not only important for healthy deer next year, but just basic survival to get to antler growing season the next spring. We started that planting process by planting a mix of seeds from green cover, some that flush early and they do good, some that are extremely cold hardy. Cereal rye, for example, grows at 30 degrees plus minus, even on these cold, short winter days. So we can be still adding pounds or tons, depending on the size of the food plot, this time of year. Whether you're managing whitetails or just want to attract deer to certain areas so you can see them or harvest some more venison for the freezer, knowing what food is the best in a deer's home range is key to punching another tag. But by establishing those food plots early, knowing where they are, and maybe even having a few food plots you haven't hunted yet or haven't hunted recently so the deer don't associate them with danger. Remember, the day length is really short right now, and you want those deer to get there during legal shooting light. They certainly won't make it if they associate that food source with danger. We leave a couple of food plots alone, or at least don't hunt them for 3 or 4 weeks leading up to this time of year. And right now those moultries are showing deer pouring in to those food plots. We hear protein, 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 and that's certainly important for fawn development and antler development. But this time of year, it switches over to carbs being really important. They still need some protein for sure, but carbs are the source of energy. And deer need energy to stay warm. They can't put another coat on like we can. They got that long hair and they can stick it up. It's called polyorect, and trap a little air in there like a down coat traps air. But if you're a 90-pound skinny deer out there and it's 0 or 20 degrees, you're still cold and burning a lot of calories. Carbs are king. Maybe there's a big acorn crop where you were and they're feeding on acorns, which are still high in carbohydrates, or you're in an ag country and there's some standing corn around. If you're a food plotter like I am, you probably don't have enough acres to grow a lot of grain carbs, but some of the small grains are also high in carbs, like cereal rye, oats, winter wheat, whatever. And if you've got a lush food plot, and of course we use a release process, really healthy soil, and we apply microbes from Soil Pro that keeps those plants growing even longer in the growing season. So our deer are looking good, those coats look slick, they're round, they're not skinny, and that's what you want to get those deer through these tough conditions in the winter. If you're at the same latitude we are here in Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, those areas, you can be cold or you can warm up just as quickly. What we found is deer prefer grains or carbohydrates on those colder days. Go back to greens on the warmer days. If you can have both, like you've still got some standing milo from your summer green cover blend, and you've got the fall greens coming up in there, that's a perfect combination. Having grains and greens is the best of all worlds. If you've got standing corn, that can be really tough to hunt. You can't see the deer when they're in there. And in some states, it's illegal to mow that down. Usually deer like that. It's a little easier for them to feed on. It's tough to get the kernels off a cob if you're a deer and you don't have any front teeth. You're just kind of gnawing it off there. That's pretty tough. But in some states, that's considered baiting, and it's illegal to mow grain down for wildlife to consume. Acorns, if in an area that had a huge red oak crop, white oaks are probably rotted by now, but red oak acorns, they can be scattered everywhere. That's tough hunting. It's good for the deer, not so good for hunting. For us, again, we know that the deer are really alert by now. We've been hunting for many weeks, and all of our neighbors have been hunting. Deer are on edge, and having those food plots that haven't had much pressure recently, and a plan, we've laid that out with a good plan so we can approach, hunt, and exit without alerting deer. Well, that's key to punching tags this time of year. Those food plots that haven't had much hunting pressure recently, boy, deer can pile in there. If you're hunting in the afternoon, they're piling in there. You may not get one in bow range or not see the deer you want to shoot. Goodness, how do you get out of there when there's 15 deer out there and it gets dark? A strategy we use here at the Proving Grounds that's worked for years is have someone else come pulling up to the plot in one of our tracker UTVs. They associate that tracker with, something they don't want to be around at that moment, and they scoot out of field, and that lets the hunter get out of blind or out of stand and exit the field without the deer associating that location with danger. Having someone pick you up is a great way to preserve a food plot for future hunts and deer not learning to associate that blind or stand with danger. Food is such a critical resource this time of year that we move a lot of our moultries to food versus other areas. And one thing we like to do is put them on a time-lapse mode, have them take a picture of 15 minutes or so, put that up on a redneck blind so we can see the entire plot. Deer will shift where they're coming in and out. Again, they're pretty scared this time of year, but putting that on that time-lapse mode lets us scout the whole plot without being there.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, PH Outdoors, Black Widow Bows, Moultrie, Steel, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, Fourth Arrow, Soil Pro Outdoors, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
You've got utilization cages in your food plots, and shame if you don't, and they're already really tall inside the cage and lip high outside, really short outside. You need to be punching some more doe tags this season because those deer got all the way to spring green up to survive on the available food. And it's all about herd health, not the number of deer, but the number of deer compared to the amount of groceries in their home range. So if you're short on food and season's still open, it's a great time to help that herd by taking a few more does. Remember, does are the reproductive units of the herd. If you're past season or you're out of tags and you're short of food, you need to start planning ahead for next year. Get that doe harvest out early so more food can survive to this time of year. Invite some buddies in, or plant some more food plots. Or if you're just planting a monoculture, single species, plant a green cover blend. Blends always produce more tonnage than a single species, and blends gives you the option of being drought resistant, cold hardy. Remember, there's no magic bean, but you get close to the magic bean by having different species in the blend to cover all those conditions. Late season's one of my favorite times to hunt. It can be cold out there and the days are short, but if it's really cold, those deer are going to be pouring into food sources, and that makes for a really fun hunting situation. But even more than hunting and fresh venison, I want to make sure I have a good life. And the only way to truly have that great life is seek the Creator's will and apply it to our lives daily. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.